So I'm coming to you guys late in the evening. Well, it's like 8:13, 13 past 8, some would say. I actually just stepped in. Trying not to burn myself. But actually just stepped in. I worked a late day today at the hospital. And I am motivated to address this recent email that I received from a black bull. He actually sent it, this morning at 9:01. And so, but then it makes me question, like, where is this person located? That they're sending this very elaborate email at such an early time in the morning. It makes me wonder, is this a person posing as a black bull in the U.S.? Just makes me wonder. So I'm going to read this email, which I found to be quite interesting. I find that it's loaded with questions, very pertinent questions relating to things that I've already got on here and discussed that made me think. Because I love to think. I like when people send me emails and with topics that allow us to do some introspection, to do some self-reflection, and kind of think from an objective standpoint of view. So I think you guys will appreciate this email that was sent to me today too as well. I'm going to read it in a minute. I should have shook this up. But before I get into this email, I am going to also address several comments that I received from someone. I don't know who this person is, but they commented on my last video that I made on cuckolding safety tips. And I can get the tone, like from the tone of this person's comments, that they were in defense mode, right? Like they had something to prove. And I was a bit annoyed, so much to the point where, I end up blocking this person. Like, I do that sometimes. Like, listen, I welcome people's perspectives. Don't get me wrong, I do. But sometimes I'm driven to just like, hold up. Wait a minute, right? Like, you're not going to try to tell me what is and what isn't. And I think the most annoying part about it is that sometimes people, I think, misunderstand me. Like, they take my words from my videos and twist them, right? And put words into my mouth that I did not say. And they do this, like, in a public response on my comments. And I'm just like, that's not what we about to do over here, right? Let me take a shot of this ginger. I just came off the subway, and I do this periodically. Like, look, it's really important to nurture my immune system. Being exposed to so many germs and bacteria and viruses just floating around. But yeah, I got annoyed because I'm like, don't come on my channel with your assumptions. Like, I'll paraphrase what he said, right? So this is in response to the video that I made on safety tips for cuckolds. And he's propositioning as if I am completely opposed to cuckolding. Now, I've already stated in my very first cuckold video that I made when I was living back in Los Angeles that I'm not really interested in cuckolding in terms of my personal sexual interest. That's just not what I'm really into. But I do like to explore alternative sexual lifestyles, given that I am a part of the BDSM community and identify myself as a submissive. Baby girl, I may not look like it. I get it. But I do. And it just tickles my fancy to look at the psychological aspects of things, of behavior, of, just people in general. So yeah. And so I'm reading this person's comments, which you guys can't see because I end up blocking him. And obviously when you ban someone or when you block a person on YouTube, their comments disappear. And like I said, I welcome people's comments and their perspectives, but I just felt like he intentionally tried to misperceive what I'm saying. I'm like, if you watch the video, and if you really watch my videos, you'll see that I'm a strong advocate for for sex positivity. I'm combining two words into one word. It is late. And usually this time I'm like winding down, not using my brain as much. But yeah, I'm a strong advocate for sex positivity. Like, I'm all about embracing one's sexuality, sexual expression. Like, yes, as long as it's done in a healthy way. There are healthy ways to do it and there are unhealthy ways, right? So obviously in my previous video, I was pointing out the unhealthy expressions of sexuality that I have been exposed to from people who have messaged me directly in response to my video topics on sexual alternative behaviors and activities and lifestyles, right? I welcome you guys to email me, to reach out. But I will give you my very unapologetic perspective in a response, right? And so I think this person felt somewhat like personally attacked and that he had to come to his own defense and not really hearing and seeing what I am saying. So in his comment, like, he has like this long explanation. This is how you know that I fucking pushed a button, because he has this long, drawn out mansplaining explanation of cuckolding and why women should embrace their sexuality more. And he was like, he had some kind of undertones to his comments as if he was trying to insinuate some things towards me as a woman. It was like, yeah, you need to embrace your sexuality more. And in doing so, you would be open to just having sex, right? Like, he's saying society has conditioned women in such a way that we're socialized to suppress our sexual urges as women compared to men, right? And that men obviously are allowed to go out and have sex, and they're praised for having multiple sexual partners, whereas women, it was like we're condemned, right? Or we're slut shamed, as they call it. And while I do agree with that, but he went on to say so much more. And I'm like, yo, what does this have to do with this video and what was said in my video? What I said in the video just went over his head. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is that when people come on my channel, my videos, and comment, and their comment is so off base. And I think it'd be very misleading, because one may look at that comment, read his comment without even watching my video, which some people do, right? They be here for the comments. Read the comment and be misdirected by this off-base comment. Has nothing to do with the video. It's not even a real response to what was said in the video. It's like, it's his own attitudes relating to sexual expression. And that's not what my video was necessarily about. He was talking about freedom of sexual expression. And I'm all for that, but he was positioning it in a way as if he was going against what I'm saying. I'm like, yo, we're saying the same thing, but you're twisting it in such a way that you are indicating that I am against freedom of sexuality, which I am not. I'm just saying be careful and look at the psychological underpinnings of what drives these sexual urges. All right, so anyway, yeah, I was completely annoyed and repulsed at his comment. While I do agree, with kind of one point that he made relating to the socialization of women versus men, which I am going to touch on here in my response to this email that I received from this black bull, which I've talked about before. So this is not new information. Let's get into it. So this person says, hope this email finds you well. He says will, but I'm assuming he means well. He wrote a lot. He says, I've seen quite a lot of video questions and topics coming from mostly white male relating to cuckolding. But what about, and funny enough, like, though I make videos on cuckolding, I don't watch other people's videos. I just don't, related to the things that I talk about. Because I'm not really interested in it in that way, right? Like, I think people who watch cuckolding videos, like, they're actually practicing this. I don't practice this. I just talk about it. So I have no interest in watching and hearing what some other person really has to say. And being my own unique content creator, like, I think it's important not to be influenced in that way by other content creators talking about similar things. That's just my thing. All right. But what about the female perspective? In one or two of your videos, you kind of touched on it, but I think it would be interesting why some women lead into it versus their male husbands. So his first question or interest is in looking at how the difference between women expressing interest or leading into this alternative sexual activity versus men's perspective, right? Or versus men who are, kind of sequestering or expressing interest in these activities, being woman-led. And it's funny because when I read that, I was reading this email on my way home on the subway train, and I'm like, I've actually disclosed this before. I don't disclose it like openly and repeatedly, but I've definitely talked about fantasies that I've had, and this was very young age. Where, I mean, one could say that I've fantasized about myself in that situation and having sex or being pleasured by more than one man, right? Even at the same time. I definitely had visions of that. And I was very, very young. Has that crossed my mind lately? Not necessarily. And would I say that I'm completely opposed to it? No, I wouldn't say that. I just think that it has to be the right combination. I've said this before in my previous video, like, everything has to be completely aligned, okay? The stars, the moon, the clouds, the sun, everything has to be in perfect divine order for me to engage in that. But I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I think that would be, I know it would be, especially if it's of my choosing, which that's the only way it would go, right? That I would choose the male partners that are involved. And of course, there has to be an understanding. There has to be intimacy. There has to be some degree of connectedness, You know, it's just not like we out here fucking kind of thing, you know. And yeah, going back to that person's comments on my video, I know I was forgetting to say something, which I'm going to definitely get into here. And it goes back to my video that I made on the real reason why white men become cuckolds, which I've said kind of over and over again, right? I've addressed this over and over again. It's their backdoor approach to them stepping into their sexuality. And they do this vicariously through their female partner. Right? It's like you are living through your woman first so that we're going to go deep here in this video. I'm telling you. Even though I am a little bit tired, as you guys can clearly see. But we're going to go into this. You're going to go deep. But it's like, I think that, and that's I think the part that annoys me, I guess, in his comment, right? This person's comment, who commented like 4 different comments on my video that I made on cuckold safety tips, because I know when someone is saying things to manipulate. Like, you cannot manipulate a manipulator, okay? It's just facts. And they say, and I think this is no myth either, and I think it's definitely true, that psychologists and lawyers are the biggest manipulators. It's just, I mean, that's part of like what we do. You know, we, and psychologists, we manipulate with good intent, you know, in the best interest of our patients or our clients. But it's like, I knew that what he was saying, the way he was positioning himself, was trying to manipulate, you know, I think a feeble mind. It's like, who are you trying to convince, right? The depth in which he was trying to mansplain himself, it was just annoying. I'm just like, you don't have to convince. Who are you trying to convince? And his comment was directed at me, right? It's not that so much he was sharing his perspective, because like I said, I welcome anyone's perspective, but it's just like, when you direct your comment at me, I think you run the risk of, number one, because I'm not going to clap back. I don't do that. You got people, you got content creators that will go back and forth with commenters. I am not one of them. I'm just going to block you. And then I win. And then case closed. That's just, I mean, it's just that simple. And so it's like, that's the part that annoyed me, because I'm just like, yo. And I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna get into it, but I have to say it now. I'm kind of jumping the gun. But I'm definitely gonna say it because I have some things to say in response to this email. And I did mention it in my previous video. But my thing is this. If as a man, and this is where we differentiate between real men and these men who are unsure of themselves, right? It's like, if as a man you want to get fucked in the ass, you want to get your ass dug out by another man, listen, that's your business. But to manipulate a woman, right? Like, to convince a woman, to drag a woman into this fantasy of yours when she is not consenting to this, right? She's not properly informed. She's not a willing participant in this. That has got to be the most disgusting, disrespectful thing ever, right? And of course, it's like, people like that person who commented on my fucking video will try to take what I say and twist and manipulate my words to serve their own selfish fantasies, to make it seem like I am demeaning this freedom of sexual expression, of being a beta male or being a cuckold, right? Because he felt like I was attacking quote unquote beta men, and in his defense and his comment on my video, he's like, oh, we're beta men aren't weak. No one said that. right? But that's his own internalized insecurities that he lives with. Like, you don't want me to read you because I can read you up and down. We're not going to do that because I just dismissed the comment and deleted it. But it's just like, that's the shit that annoys me. I see straight through the bullshit. Because, yo, maybe I should have left it up. Maybe I should have screenshot the comment and posted it. But I'm just paraphrasing. Like, all of this explaining the rationale behind why he's interested in allowing his partner, his female partner, to have multiple men, you know, inserted inside of her, right? It's just like, if you want to get your ass dug out, you can get your ass dug out. Like, I know the truth. That he's like, there are women. No, he's like, there are men who really enjoy seeing their wives, their female partners, get pleasured by a man, by a boy. They really exist. And I've seen these comments before, right? On my video where I'm giving the real reason why white men become cuckolds. That video went viral. And men, these white men are trying to justify and explain themselves. I'm like, nah, buddy. Not to say it's impossible, not to say they don't exist, because I know anything is possible. I'm just saying that is not the norm, right? And I stand by that. I stand by that truth. Right? For him, like, listen, for him to say, and I want y'all to show up in the comments, for him to say, oh no, there are men, and I'm one of those men who I just only want to see my partner, just female partner, I just want to see her get pleased by a man. But then the truth comes out down the road that no, that's not all what you wanted. In fact, that was just the gateway to get what you want. And you're doing that very deceitfully. Because ultimately that's what you wanted. You wanted to use her so you can get some action. And my thing is like, listen, do you, but why drag your wife in? Especially if she's not willing. If she's up for it, then okay. But a lot of y'all men are admitting that, no, she's not up for it. How can I convince my wife? How can I convince my female partner to be in agreement with this? So that ultimately I can get my selfish sexual needs met. Because truly I want to lay down with a man. And in exchange for me pretending that I'm doing this for her sexual gratification, it's for you, honey. You deserve to be sexually gratified by any man of your choosing. It's for you. Knowing damn well it's another side to that story. It's another side to that proposition. That is the ultimate form, I think, of manipulation. Knowing goddamn well. And then somebody say, oh, well, no, that's not what it is. Perhaps you're not conscious of it. Are you not conscious? Are you not aware of your own selfish desires? Are you not aware? This is the reason why I said in my cuckold safety tips video, what did I mention is of utmost importance for you to do first? To know what's driving your behavior. What is driving you? What's driving you is a void that you're trying to fulfill, right? And fill. And this void that you're trying to fill this fantasy that you're trying to fulfill is so that you can get your sexual needs met. You're doing it to get your sexual. That's what's driving this urge. Oh, I want to allow my wife to get pleasure. But you're not aware of that. And then, oh, lo and behold, as things develop, oh, by the way, I would love some of that action. So then, it's like the foot in the door technique, right? I'm like, who y'all think y'all fooling, man? Don't try that shit over here. Listen, do not come with the bullshit, because that's the shit that annoys me. As if y'all think that I don't see straight through the shit. That's the shit that annoys me. It's not, listen, you do what you choose to do. Like I said, I'm sex positive, but just be honest about it. The issue is, these men, beknownst to them, and sometimes I would give them the benefit of the doubt, unbeknownst to them, that they're driven by their own selfish needs. And so now that you've allowed her to step outside the confines of fidelity, in a sense, right? Or this mutually exclusive agreement that y'all had, you allow her to step outside of that and have a little bit of fun. But this is a caveat, you want to be there. You see what I'm saying? See, this is the part that pissed me off. Well, listen, we ain't even got into the freaking email yet. I'm just commenting on these comments I received on my last video. But it's definitely related. I'm just jumping the gun because I have some things to address here in response to this email I received from this black bull who I think is very intelligent. He's did some thinking. Now he's making me think. But I have to address this. It's like, that's the shit. But this is a caveat. They want to be there. Right? And so in this person's mansplaining, he's like, oh, you're just trying to paint this beautiful, selfless picture. I want to see my wife pleasure, but you want to be there. Like, my thing is this. If that was true, where you got these innocent husbands, these very selfless husbands, or male partners who want to see their female partner gratified, sexually satisfied by however many men of her choosing, then let her do that. Why do you need to be there? This is my thing. They want to see this. Why? Because they are getting something out of it. Be honest enough to admit that. Oh, I like seeing her gratified. Like, who you think you're fooling? I like seeing her gratified. Do you see the level of, you see how that they put that shit to, I like seeing her gratified. Think about it. I'm saying it repeatedly for a reason. You like seeing her gratified. You like seeing her gratified, all right? Imagining that it was you. If you would like something for your wife, right? You want her, and then let's say this wife is willing, right? This is something that you know that she wants. A lot of women really don't want that. That's the truth, though. That's the thing. They inherently don't want that. Deep down inside, they don't want that. Right? So this person in the comments, that's why he goes and tries to paint this picture like, oh, society has socialized women to repress their urges. They lack sexual freedom, and that's unfair. And women need to embrace their sexual freedom. It ain't no way no man vouching for no sexual freedom from the woman that goddamn hard unless there's something in it for him. Let's be real. If that's the case, if a man is vouching for a woman's sexual liberation that much, okay, you can do that, but why are you part of the equation in that case? I'm just saying, let's keep it. This is a problem that I have. Because instead of being 100 and saying, yes, on one hand, yes, I want women to be sexually free so they can sleep with whoever they want. They can just, whatever that looks like, they can do it for whatever they want to do. Right? And on top of that, I would like to be a part of it. Just be real with it. I'm just saying, though. I've already said this. I have more respect. And we're talking about like alternative sexuality. And what comes to mind is homosexuality, right? Like, I have much respect for men who are homosexual and just live that shit unapologetically, yo. They out and open and like, listen, this is me. Take it or leave it. This is what I like. But you got these down low men who present themselves, and this is some snakish ass shit. They present themselves one way, deep down inside, they have ulterior motives. And you can see right through them. Take off that fake shit. That's my thing. I'm reading the comment like, y'all, I can see right through it. I can't deal with deceit, manipulation, deception. You're not being honest. It's clear. It's so ever clear. I think I've made myself clear. So let's continue. Now that I've made myself clear, okay, I hope that I've made myself crystal clear. He says, I also met an author who writes about female-led relationships. They are more of storytelling and don't get into the psychological or emotional aspects of these types of relationships. Why do women, mostly white women, who are the ones to suggest this type of relationship, do what they do? He asks a lot of questions because we're getting into it. He says, why is it they seek out black men instead of older or other white men, right? In these female-led relationships, why do they seek out black men instead of other white men? It seems to me that mostly white folks are the ones engaging in interracial relationships, swinging or cuckolding. Why is that? Now, he's kind of lumping these dynamics together, right? He's talking about female-led relationships on top of interracial relationships, on top of cuckolding, right? He's intersecting all these different relationship types and dynamics into one thread of a conversation. And they're all different, though there could be some overlap. But they're all different. Let's be clear. He says, do you hear Asian couples or Latina couples swinging, let alone swinger cuckolding out of their own race? Now, I definitely get his drift, right? Because what he's saying is that it seems like it's more of white people in general, right? And for him to be a heterosexual male, we're going to get into that. He definitely clarifies that in the next paragraphs to come. But because I already kind of proofread this email, I know that he's a heterosexual male, black male at that. So from his perspective, what he's seeing is that it seems to be kind of a disproportionate number of white women seeking out these alternative sexual dynamics. Specifically, like as he says, swinging or cuckolding or interracial dynamics, white in particular. Now, the questions that he asked, I think, are very loaded, and you can actually tease apart each question, and each question can stand independently on its own. So I'm going to break it down in that way, because I think what he's asking and what he's touching on is very complex, right? Like, these concepts are very dynamic. I don't think it's cut and dry. Right? I don't think it's black or white. I don't think there's no straight, direct answer to these questions that he's asking. I mean, the questions that he's asking can easily be a whole thesis, can easily be a whole dissertation. So going back to his first question, and this is just one paragraph. There are more paragraphs, y'all. So just relax, okay? He says, why do women, mostly white women, who are the ones to suggest this type of relationship, do what they do? In particular, more specifically, why is it they seek out black men instead of other white men? Now, I can answer this. I am not a white woman, clearly, but I can talk about the preference of a black man over white men. Can y'all handle this? Can y'all handle this? Because y'all, I know y'all heard me speak on this relating to size. I'm not even about to go on that because that's the obvious. He definitely kind of answers on question towards the end of the email where he talks about evolutionary psychology. And I think there is some truth to that. And from a deeper spiritual sense, a deeper kind of innate sense, like, people going to go back to the true origins. People want to go back to what is natural. This is a conversation I think that a lot of y'all probably ain't ready for. You know, it ain't ready for it, and it definitely crosses over the lines of politics, which y'all know I'm here for all day. But I think it's no surprise. It should be no surprise, like, who truly is a dominant race. I've talked about this, so go watch my videos and talking about black men being more dominant. All the way around. Being the true natural essence of a human being. Every other race came from the black man and the black woman. That is a fact. That is a scientific fact. I know there's this whole thing about Darwinism to try to reverse the truth and paint it as though black people who, on that spectrum of evolution, they try to represent black people, the darker complexion people, are closely resemble monkey, right? As if we're less evolved. And then the more evolved people resemble the white man standing straight upright, right? It could not be any further away from the truth. The truth is, this is a painful truth though. A lot of y'all can't handle this. But it's like you almost have to go and unlearn everything that you have been taught and things that obviously have been inbred and ingrained into your psyche, into what you know to be true. The way in which we have been socialized, everything has to be undone. Yo, you will be fucking shattered. Your sense of self, your whole sense of who you are and what is reality and what has been manipulated to serve a certain agenda, yo, it will blow people's mind. This is something y'all can't handle, right? There are scholars who talk about this. I'm going to leave that for their lane. I'm not going to address that here. But just know, like, all this shit that people have been taught, and that's the reason why there are strategic, well-designed systems with these agendas, obviously to paint this image of white supremacy, so to speak. Like, that is not by mistake. That's not by coincidence. This is where true thinking comes in, right? I know a lot of people, we're like robots. Like, when you think of the mind, and this is why I go deep. That's what I'm just saying, though. So my videos are not for people who like microwavable content. My content definitely is not no 2-3 minute content, right? I know people have mentioned, oh, they wish that I just am more concise. That's not how things work. But when we look at the human mind, we are like computers. We are easily programmed. And much of the way we think, not myself necessarily, but obviously majority of people, they don't question. And actually we're socialized. We're conditioned from birth to not question, to not think. Just to accept. When you do question, you're labeled a problem. Just sit in a classroom and observe. In grade school, free thought is criticized. It's almost demonized. If you are agreeable, then you get positively reinforced. So I always challenge people just to think for themselves. Think and ask questions, right? Don't take things readily as it's fed to you, which unfortunately most people have. So in going back to his question about why is there a preference for black men, it's black men are the closest thing to God. Some would even say black men are God, and the black woman is God. This is not philosophy. This is fact, a scientific fact. One can talk about melanin. One can talk about, see, this is a conversation y'all ain't ready for. But I'll put it out there on the surface. I can say this, though, and I've said this in a post on Facebook, that one thing that disgusts me the most is when I step into a room where white people have been talking. It is almost the most disgusting smell. Yeah, like when I puke, y'all. And you may think that's me being racist or whatever. No. This is science. This is science here, okay? I've walked into many rooms where there are people and there is, conversation. But walking into a room with white people, and you know that there has been, it's like an enclosed space, and white people have been talking, there is a certain stench, yo. It's like, it's not natural. It's not human. It's like something is wrong. And I know that white people have been convinced to believe that they are superior. They are the superior race, right? Biologically and in all aspects. But no, that's the whole system of white supremacy, right? To flip things upside down. The reverse is actually true. And this is the reason why they created these systems, to keep these groups of people oppressed out of fear for their own genetic survival. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, the late Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, a Black American psychiatrist, talks about this. in her book, The ISIS Papers, which I cited in my dissertation research, in my literature review. It's a harsh reality to take in. It's a lot to take in if this is your first time hearing this. The truth of the matter is that white people are genetically modified. We all are. I mean, at this goddamn point, hell, the entire human genome has been genetically modified. But when we think of who is the most genetically modified, they are the most. They are the furthest away from the true origin of humanity. Fact. We're all mixed, though, especially being born in America and being descendants of slaves. It's a lot of different shit in my blood, you know. But yeah, it makes sense why these systems have been created. These systems of racial oppression that directly and very strategic, very sophisticated, that directly target people who are not white. But yes, still we rise. Yeah, that breath, the white breath, it's disgusting. I can give other examples that I've heard other people say, right? The white breath, that's something I've observed. I can speak to that. Other people I know, I ain't gonna go there. But I also have heard other people mentioning just the smell, white people, especially when they're wet, right? This is science. It may seem very subjective, but it's still observations. It's still based on experience. And this is not something that you probably will ever see in research necessarily, but it's people's experience. Like white people smell different. It's a smell. Some people have likened the smell of white people to dogs. I hate to say that because it does sound dehumanizing. It does sound racist, but it's true. So we're answering the question. This question is asked about the preference for a black man. It's different. White people and black, we're just different. We are. It's a truth that people don't want to hear. I get it. The energy is different. The touch is different. The smell is different. These are subtle things that know on the surface. People say, oh, well, we're not that much different genetically. We're like 99.9% genetically the same. You told that damn lie. We are different, okay? Spiritually, we're different. Our vibrations are different. It's almost like we are a different species. We just are. Anyway, let's leave that up to science, because there have been many scientists, even white scientists, have shown the differences between black and white, okay? I'm talking about geneticists, pure science. Even sociologists, they call it pseudoscience. Psychologists have noted that they're different. It's just different, okay? And that difference speaks to the qualitative differences. This factors into this preference here for black men. It's not a myth. Now, I know I've talked about the size, right? And this common narrative of black men being more well endowed than white men. And about couple of weeks ago, someone commented on one of my videos, and they go in this long tirade, yo. And they quoted this study. I think they quoted the study from this university in Maryland. It's not true. The way they interpreted the results of that research, that they twisted it. Because first and foremost, we're talking about research done in America. You're not going to find extensive research that is representative of the general population in America as it relates to dick size. Who's going to pass, first of all, who's going to pass that research through the IRB, the Ethics Review Committee? It's not going to be approved. If so, how it is approved somehow, how many black men signing up for that shit? So then the question is, where do they get these dick sizes from? This research study they have quoted to say, oh no, the research has shown there are no differences based on race between black men and white men relating to dicks. There's no difference, racial differences. Okay. Then he says, it seems to me that mostly white folks are the ones engaging in interracial relationships. Now, just that part alone, how can white folks be the only ones engaging in it when we're talking about interracial? So that means it's interracial, involving different races. How can they be the only one engaging in this? That's just like a double standard where they want to say it's okay for men to have sex, but when women do it, we're promiscuous. But it's just like, but you're also having sex, right? Too. If a man is want to sit up here and point fingers at, oh, women having sex, or the body count, scrutinizing the body count of women, but like, who else you having sex with? Unless you're homosexual. These are heterosexual men scrutinizing the body count of women when you're having sex with these women. So how else would you be getting sex? Right? It takes two. So in this case, it takes multiple races. If they're going to be engaged, white people are going to engage in interracial relationships, then no, it's not just white people engaging in interracial. Think about that. Like, doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. White people engaging in interracials, it just seems like it's just only white people engaging in interracial relationships. No, I mean, if they are engaging in interracial relationships and they're engaging in that with people from other races, which means there are people from different races engaging in interracial relationships. But it seems just to be a white thing. How so? Then he says, in swinging or cuckolding, it seems to be a white thing that white people do the swinging and the cuckolding. No, people from all races. If you were ever to go to an underground club, you see people from all races. I live in New York City. Has to be the most diverse city in the U.S., if not the entire world. Yo, I mean, the whole world pretty much lives in New York City. And so that's what I love about it, because my race, I would say, is less salient here than, let's say, if I lived in Florida. Even in living in Los Angeles, I just feel that my race is less salient, because there's people from so many different races and cultures. And New York City, I mean, having so many people from all over the world here, pretty much the whole entire world lives in New York. It's like there's more cultural inclusion and there's more interaction. New York consists of over 8 million people. So like we brush shoulders with people from different cultures and race. It's not uncommon. You know, we live, we eat, we work amongst each other. So if you were to go to, or you're invited to, which I actually got invited to my first, this is back when I think I celebrated my 32nd birthday, I think it was. I went to my very first BDSM club here in New York. I was invited, I think, through someone on FetLife. And I went, and it was just amazing. I made a video about it. You guys can check that out. Just look up my very first BDSM club experience. Just search on YouTube. But yeah, that was amazing. And people from all different races were there. I mean, it was just like a different world up in there, if you ask me, and the BDSM club party. And then after that, like, I had so much fun. And I craved for more, that I was seeking out other opportunities to go to other parties similar to the one I had went to celebrate my birthday. And I did. All right, I found a few other clubs, and then what I saw was like diversity. It's like you got white people in there swinging, you got black people in there swinging, you got all kind of people in there swinging. Okay, I think it's really about what you have been exposed to. So it's like the exposure, the mere exposure effect, right? Or the availability heuristic, where, you know, the more you are exposed to something, something is, you know, in your purview, then you're going to think that's the representative of how things are, what things are, when no, that's just what you've been exposed to. Expand your horizons, you'll see that it's a lot common across different cultures and races. Now, I mean, one can make the argument that, like he mentioned, Asian, you don't really see that like an Asian or Latina. I guess it depends on where are you, you know, where are you writing this from? It's different in New York, like major cities like New York. It's a lot of race mixing, and it's a lot of things that are typically deemed to be socially unacceptable is accepted here in New York. That's why I love New York. You know, you can really truly be yourself. That's a fact. And no one is not going to look at you weird, because everybody here is just free, and essentially, to just be who you are. So, yes, I do see Asian couples, Latina couples, like even intermixing with white people, black people, participating in swinging and cuckolding. Yeah. And doing all kind of other stuff too. You know. Let's keep going. Is there something psychological or psychologically different from white people? Or is this some kind of social programming? I do think he has somewhat of a point, though. I know the porn industry pushes a lot of fake material when it comes to interracial porn, but what people search for is different. Looking at the demographics of what certain people search for in porn is interesting. Most of the interracial stuff always consists of a black man dominating a white woman. Like, why is not a different dynamic or racial dynamic where it's a black man dominating Latina or dominating Asian? But this is the thing. This is the issue I have, and I said this before. Like, people who watch porn, that is not reality. It's like people think that that's a reflection of what's real, and it's not. It's entertainment, you guys. And I think this is a confusion because often, it's been said that art imitates life. So even things that are entertainment, even though it's fiction, is still a reflection of life, what's true in real life. What could be true, right? Because it could be this narrative that they are painting, right, to appeal to a certain demographic. Maybe as an Asian woman, this is not something you're interested in, but because you see yourself represented in this storyline, in this video on a porn site, then perhaps you would consider being banged out by a well-endowed black man. My thing is, like, of course, I know about porn sites. Of course, I've visited porn sites, but it's not my thing. Like, I don't live in the porn world. I don't get my sexual gratification from watching porn. You know, I did that many, many years ago before I was of legal age to watch porn, right? So I'm 39 years old. Like, porn don't do it for me. If anything, that shit is so sexually frustrating. It's like, why torture myself by watching porn? I can't, right? I like storyline. So if there's porn that has a good storyline, which it really doesn't exist, right? Just doesn't. Whereas like just imagine a really good story, like a blockbuster film that makes it to the silver screen, right? That we're talking about films that producers have invested millions and millions of dollars into. Great storyline. And then there is adult sexual activity in the midst of that, right? And then particularly like my type of sex stuff, like BDSM. Like, for example, one of my favorite series, 50 Shades of Grey, like that. That's the kind of shit I would be into. And I know from the reviews, a lot of people said that 50 Shades of Grey, that's kind of like borderline porn, whatever. Because there's a lot of sex scenes in that. But it still had a good, solid storyline, yo. I own the whole entire series. Actually was invited to the red carpet premiere in Los Angeles. I was sitting like second row. Got a chance to see and meet all of the cast and the director, the writer. So that's I love me some 50 Shades of Grey. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I wouldn't even think of that as porn, though. I just look at that. Listen, that's a good story. That so happens to have some sex scenes incorporated into it, but it's really about the stories, the romance, it's the intimacy, the love. It's a love story. I'm just like, if you ever lost hope in love, like for me, watching that made me rekindle my hope in being loved. Just the fantasy, of being dominated in that traditional sense of the man taking control like that. Ugh, damn, if I could just be her. That's the kind of porn I like to see. But again, that's not really porn. All right. Is there something psychologically different from white people, or is this some kind of social programming? I know the porn industry pushes a lot of fake material when it comes to interracial porn, but what people search for is different. Looking at the demographics of what certain people search for in porn is interesting. Most of the interracial stuff always consists of a black man dominating a white woman. Based on what I've read, that white women are looking for men of color. I mean, hell, why not? White women know what's good. Like, they've tried their own. It ain't the same. And I have very little experience sexually with white men. When I say very little, I mean I can count probably on 2 fingers, literally. And nah, buddy. It's just white dick and black dick hit differently, okay? It's all about that energy. Like, a black man will own your soul having sex with their ass. Like, that whole term dickmatized, that's from a black dick. That ain't from no white dick. Not to say white women don't get dickmatized, I know they be out running their little fantasy world and falling in love, right? And getting swept off their feet. But would you say it's from being dick down? I would say it's probably from other things, like the man being romantic, buying flowers, remembering her birthday, or just these kind gestures, like being thoughtful. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's because of dick. You literally got black women. I mean, a black man don't even have to bring shit to the table. He can literally be what most people would perceive as the scum of the earth, right? Like financially bankrupt, like don't have shit, but it's in boxers and fucking Timberland boots, right? And a black woman will be straight hooked, dickmatized, just off the dick alone. Okay? I feel like that says a lot. Larry ain't shit, literally. Larry a piece of shit, literally, but he brings something to the table that is invaluable. What's between his legs, I mean, this is just facts. Like, black women, like, over some good dick, which is black dick, will, like, have lost their minds, literally. Like, it takes you into a different dimension. Like I say, black men will own your soul. And that's what women want. I won't even say it's white women. That's what women want. When you didn't have that. And I know of course, they hear stories about it. It's no fucking secret that black men got some shit popping down there. And it ain't just in the size, it's in the energy, yo. It's in the motion. It's in the touch, like the sensual touch of a black man. Those hands are just different. White men don't have those they just don't. They don't have that touch. It's different. We need to acknowledge and accept that difference. That's the issue. Y'all motherfuckers be in denial about it. And then some of y'all curious and you want to experience that. The white men, of course, just like the white women, no different. They know what's up. The white men want to get a piece of that. Just say that, though. Why y'all go the backdoor route? I get it. There's a stigma when it comes to homosexuality. Your boys can't. You don't want your boys to know. But my thing is, so many people, living in lies. Shit is fake. We live in a fake-ass world, and social media do not help. And for people who are addicted to social media, which most of us are, or we're just scrolling and looking at other people's fake-ass lives. It's fake. Because it's all fucking silver screen. They're painting themselves in this light that doesn't really exist. It's a fucking paintbrush, yo. It's not real. And you'll realize that when you unplug from social media, how happy you feel, like how much of a burden is lifted. That's why people usually take those social media fast, because they're like, damn, social media is so toxic. And you get caught up in this world of comparison, comparing yourself to someone else's idea of a world that is not even real, yo. This is a story that they have created. It's airbrushed. You know that. We know this, though. You buy into it. Vicariously trying to live through people who really got some fucked up lives, or just average lives, just like yourself. And I really would rather watch content that is just real. Like, people ain't trying to front, ain't trying to get all made up or did up or promote themselves as if they got more money than what they really have. They just live in a they regular people. That's what you should connect to. It's not real. You will be misguided. But yeah, taking that backdoor approach posing as one thing. I know I was saying that to say that if only we lived in a real society where people can truly be themselves, right? Then that wouldn't be an issue. But we don't live in that world where people can truly be themselves. People are putting on this mask, this front, when deep down, you know, they just want to be. And being could mean having sex with women. Being could mean having sex with men. But they just want to be. But you can't be that, right? Because of the labels and the stigma and the judgment. I've always wondered, why is that? Why do white women seek these types of relationships or fantasize about these things? You mentioned a cuckolding couple that was mixed, a white husband and a black wife. Black women aren't fantasizing or searching porn topics related to white men. Now, granted, this is a black man here. I'm reading this email from a black heterosexual man. I think part of his narrative is coming from a place where he is stroking his own ego, right? And I've already said that I don't think necessarily, like, he's making it as if, okay, it's all about the black man, right? And then, you know, all fingers, all roads kind of point back to the black man. And granted, I mean, yes, the black man is God, right? The black man is packing, but he's saying as if, like, black women don't have that experience. Like, oh, it's only white women drawn to black. No, that's not true, right? He says, you mentioned a cuckolding couple that was mixed, a white husband and a black wife. Black women aren't fantasizing or searching porn topics related to white men. That's not true. I mean, we know that black men are date outside of their race. White men date outside their race. Black women date outside their race. White women date outside their race. Now, there have been research studies that have been cited and quoted that black men date outside their race more than any other race or any other racial or demographic, right? But all four corners date outside their race. All four demographics date outside of their race. And to say that black women aren't fantasizing about being with a white man, I do think that, I mean, there is a whole community, there's a whole group of black women. I mean, I think it's just really what you're exposed to. Because there's a whole trend now, and this isn't new, but it has evolved, where these black women who attack the manosphere, and I don't follow those. Like, I've come across their videos, but I've pulled away. You know, I'm thinking of one vlogger in particular that I was inspired by her videos. She's from New York. She lives in New York now. Very successful content creator. And when I was living in Atlanta, I had come across her channel, and she was doing travel vlogs, and I was just really, really inspired by her. She was just so organic. She's just real, you know. She wasn't trying to put on makeup and pretend to be something that she wasn't, pretend to have more money than what she has. She's just being natural, being organic. And that's the part I like. And then it's like over time, it's like as she grew older, she grew bitter and having difficulties for herself of finding an eligible partner, you know, and of course she has a history of trauma and bad things happening to her. So that adds a whole nother layer. But with that, she evolved into this, or devolved into this black woman that I find utterly unattractive. And I used to love her content because she was so real, and she's still real, but it's just like toxic real in a sense. And I don't like that. It's just toxic. It's like, take a look in yourself. I'm all about people just looking within, find out what the hell is wrong with you. Stop pointing fingers at someone else. And like, that's kind of what her whole channel is like devoted to. It's just like making disparaging, demeaning remarks towards men, putting men down, and you know, I mean, she has some good parts where she kind of objectively points out these challenges that men and women experience, you know, in dating, but I don't like that perspective at all. And it comes, I think, from a toxic place. Only, I think, a person who is filled with hatred towards self can spew that amount of hate towards another person. And yeah, it's just her channel and other women's channel like hers is just spewed with hate. So with that, like, they are on this journey. They call it a self-love, but it's really self-hatred. And they uplift white men at the expense of putting down black men. They're very deliberate, unapologetic about it, like they don't give two shits, right? And her numbers have skyrocketed. And I think obviously that could be a reinforcer for her in changing her narrative and the topics of her videos, because I mean, granted, you know, she had some traction back in the day when she was just being, you know, in her natural self, organic self, you know, creating content that was positive and inspiring and spiritual and conscious. And, you know, it's just like you have to kind of create content that feeds into the agenda, right, of this war between the races, or this war between just people in general, you know, whether races or genders. Like, that's what feeds the algorithm. That's what the algorithm loves. That goes to show you the type of destructive world that we live in. You know, this shit is diabolical. But that's how you get numbers. And I know people have reached out to me. It's like, oh, I can teach you how to get more followers and go viral and do. I'm like, it's a no-brainer I've been viral, right? It's a no-brainer how to do that. And that's definitely not my intent to create content, you know, at the expense of me being my authentic self, right? And delivering content that is self-respecting. I am not going to make that sacrifice. But I say that to say that there is a whole slew of black women who are on that bandwagon and are painting white men as gods and encouraging black women to just let go of this ideal, this fantasy, right? This fairy tale of being loved by the black man. That's not uncommon. It's really just about what you have been exposed to and what you know about. But he says black women aren't fantasizing or searching porn topics related to white men. Yeah, they are. Why is that? Even when there's a mixed couple consisting of a white man and a black woman, Asian woman, or ECT, you still can find that they are swinging or cuckolding. This shows up in a lot of porn topics. White men, ebony wife with BBC, or Asian wife knocked up by BBC, or whatever crazy time. It's just like, I get it. Like y'all in the porn world, which is much different than real world. Is it that white women are unsatisfied? Let me scroll. Is it that white women are unsatisfied? Or like I said, is it psychological? Or is society push a lot of programming onto white couples? I have to ask you as a professional, because I'm a black man who has been approached a few times by a white female. Let's talk about that difference though, because I think to his point, like he is pointing out something that is observable. An observable difference between the races and how we show up in relationships and we express ourselves when it comes to dating and social initiations, relationships and interactions. I think there is a difference. And I'm going to say that difference is definitely attributed to, it's getting late and I'm so tired, but it's definitely attributed to our socialization, and religion plays a significant role. I mean, just take a look. When it comes to all of these acronyms, all this whole alphabet soup with the LGBTQIA and the list goes on. When it comes to that, when it comes to transsexual and transgender and gender affirming and all of that, like, that's white people stuff. Let's just be clear, like where it began, where it originated, right? That whole movement, that's initiated by white people. Granted, black people have come on the bandwagon with that, right? It's not to say that it's exclusively reserved for white people, but we're talking about where it originates from. That's white people shit, you know? And to that, I think that there is a place for white people to feel supported. You know, there's a culture of this acceptance of differentness, I think, more so in the white community than it is in the black community or other communities. That's a fact. Religion plays a significant role in it. Tradition plays a significant role. It's like what we are taught. I mean, just look, for example, when it comes to this whole emerging of children, you know, being allowed to choose their identity. And we look at the differences between race, parenting, looking at parenting perspectives or the perspectives of parents amongst different races. Which race do you think is more acceptable of their child? If you were to ask parents, do a research study and ask parents who have children who are 5, 6, 7, ask them, well, what are their perspectives? If their child, say even they were born a boy or a male, say Mom, I'm a girl, I want to be a girl. What do you think that the parents' reaction to that would be across different cultures and races? Who would be more socially accepting of that? I will have to say white people. I mean, I've observed this. Not all, not just to encapsulate and say that all white people fall under the umbrella, but definitely there is a trend that's very evident. Black people make it clear, hell nah, you come home, that bullshit. Wait till you get 18 years old. Like, they're not going to support that transition. They're just not. We do have an example of that with Dwayne Wade's son crossing over. That's, you know, that's not representative of the black culture necessarily, though. Because so many black households, so many black families and couples and parents are repulsed at that. They're like, what the hell? Right? But I think it makes for great marketing, you know, him being a black celebrity, and Will Smith and Dwayne Wade and his wife, Gabrielle Union, you know, creating this space for their children to be non-gender conforming, you know, and be able to choose how they want to express themselves ultimately. That is not representative of the general population of black people, though. And we know within Asian culture, they're similar to black, very strict, traditional, patriarchal norms. They adhere to those. I mean, this is sociological research. You can go and find the source. And I mean, if you are paying attention, this is why, I mean, social media can be a blessing and a curse, but in some ways it is a blessing, because if a person like myself, you know, if you are keen and you like to study behavior, right? like within naturalistic observation, you can see like how society has shifted over time. Just looking at like what you see on social media, it's evident. It's there. Like the data is there in your face. You can see how people respond. Just look at the comments, the thousands of comments that are left, and just look and read. You can get a chance to look at the collectivistic or the collective conscious of people across different cultures. It's in your face. Black people, collectively, generally speaking, we're opposed to that. So it makes sense in talking about, this alternative sexual expression or engaging in alternative sexual lifestyles and activities, that there is a culture of acceptance and support kind of nurtured within the white culture, American culture, I would say specifically, compared to other cultures. Is more accepting, more tolerable of that, whatever that expression looks like. Whereas within Black culture, Black women often are slut shamed. You see it. There have been videos that have gone viral of little children dancing. I've seen it with my own eyes, both Black children, white children, right? And when I say children, we're talking about 9 years old, 10 years old, right? And of course, the whole twerking is popular now on social media. You have Black girls twerking, you have white girls twerking, you have adults twerking, right? What I have noticed consistently, looking at the comments, because I'd be curious to see like people's response, how people perceive, how they react. And the response is negative when it comes to Black girls twerking. But when the white girls do it, oh, that's so cute. The Black girls do it, oh, she being fast. She need to sit her ass down somewhere. She should not, like, they shame. It's just like interesting. So in looking at that difference that's ever clear in that example, like that's just a microcosm. You can only imagine within the immediate social context of Black women, Black people, right? And relating to their family, the immediate social context and their friends, right? People that they work with, people in their community. There's not a culture of support. If anything, there's a stigma attached to that. Wherein white women are allowed to express themselves. They're encouraged to. White people in general are encouraged to. So let's keep going because I'm answering his question before we really get deep into it. He says, is it that white women are unsatisfied, or like I said, is it psychological, or society push a lot of programming onto white couples? I have to ask you as a professional because I'm a Black man who has been approached a few times by white female colleagues. I've had a few jobs and I've never been straight up approached by a Black woman in the same way. But a few white women have. Now that's pretty bold. Is it bold? Or is it just being honest? Right? Like there are so many different cultural differences. This is just one example. This is taking like a kind of a zoomed in look at interactions between the races, comparing different social interactions when it comes to dating and expressing oneself. But the research points to so many different cultural differences. I can give an example, not even related to intimacy, right? But really related to, there's a research study, many studies that have been done, where it's looking at Black children and white children and how the difference shows that white children developmentally are allowed to explore their environment. They have that free range, right? Without being scolded or reprimanded, you know. And the reprimand and the scolding obviously comes from a certain place when Black parents do this. But just a mere fact, like, they are raised in two different types of environments, though, with two different types of parenting styles and socialization, where when white children, this is talking about out in public, are allowed to explore their environment, of course within reason, right, within a certain range, but Black children, they're not given that luxury. It's like, get your ass back over here. Even if you go 2 feet, a little 2 feet away. There have been research studies done on these differences. Why do you think that's so? You can answer that. Leave that in the comments below. It goes back to the parent socialization, how society has socialized these parents. Who really feels safe? I can see the differences, which I pointed to. Where I live in Upper East Side Manhattan, which is considered to be a upscale neighborhood, it's different. And then a couple miles north, down the street, is Harlem, predominantly Black, like night and day. It's different. And as you guys can see, yes, I'm tired. But let's keep going. I think I've been asked at least 6 times by different women, they want to have sex. And these are white women, he's saying, that are approaching him. I believe all of them have been married or in a relationship. This is where it gets interesting here. I like this part of the email. He says, I believe you also did a video where something similar happened. What drives mostly white women to this reasoning? I've had a few Black women flirt, but never straight up ask for sex or insinuating something sexual. I think only 2 women's husbands knew about it and wanted to join in. Honestly, I like the attention and it's quite tempting, but I can't have sex with someone who is married. See, he has morals, okay? This is what it boils down to. You know, it's like, to each his own, you do what you do. And I get that for some people, you know, the level of transparency and being honest and forthcoming kind of takes the excitement, the thrill out of it, right? They say that it's no better sex than sex that you're having that you know damn well you're not supposed to be having, right? It just makes it more fun. It makes it feel better. Having sex that you know is dead ass wrong. Sleeping with someone's wife that the husband doesn't know and hasn't approved of. That's a whole nother level of a fetish right there. But he says no, he can't do that, right? Because he has morals, and those morals come from how he has been socialized. His conscience won't let him do that. His moral compass won't let him do that. I think only 2 women's husbands knew about it and wanted to join in. Honestly, I think the attention, I like the attention and it's quite tempting, but I can't have sex with someone who is married and don't know they are cheating. Some would tell me their fantasies, how they always wanted to be with a Black man. One told she liked to get pregnant. I bet she do. It's one thing to have sex with a married co-worker whose husband is consenting. Exactly, okay? But another thing to have them watch or participate in any way. Exactly. That's what I've been saying. Like, it's the backdoor approach, you know. If something feels very mischievous about that, like put myself in a man's shoes who is somehow invited, right? Oh, you're invited to my bedroom. You can fuck my wife, right? Whether she initiates that, she leads, invites him, or the husband invites, right? Like he says, that can feel very reassuring. He likes the attention. It's like very validating. Makes you feel important. Like, damn, they want me in their bedroom? Like, right? But then he has boundaries. Because he's like, wait a minute. Like, wait, you watching? Wait, you going to be there? Wait, your husband doesn't know about this? So think about that. Either end of the spectrum, like he's saying, is wrong. Where a woman is sneaking and doing it. He doesn't feel comfortable. That doesn't sit well with him. Or she's doing it behind her husband's back. Or even if he's there and watching, that also feels very uncomfortable. It's like something is not right about this. Especially as a heterosexual man, let's be clear. All right, to each his own, but if you're a heterosexual man, I can imagine like being a heterosexual man and then I'm thinking, okay, I'm about to definitely enjoy another man's wife, obviously with his permission, but he's watching me? You can't help but think, like, okay, like, you know, like, nobody is not dumb, okay? You know what the fuck is going on. You can see through all that bull. You know. It's really about this man. He really wants to sleep with you. He wish he was his wife. Getting fucked deeply and sensually by you. And eventually he's going to get to that point. Which leads me to this story. I know this video is hella long, okay? I get it. But it leads me to this story when I was in college. I was like a junior, senior in college, like 21, 22. Back in 2005, 2006. And I remember, college days was a shit, yo. I ain't even gonna hold you. That shit was a shit. I remember I lived in this townhome. I was going to Florida State University, and like next door to me was a good friend of mine, another student who was from Miami. And I remember we would hang out, and my house was a shit too. Like I would invite everybody would come over and hang out, right? But I think I was hanging at his place, and you know, when you're young, that's what you do. It's like live life on edge. You're having fun. You have a lot of friends. Or I had a lot of freaking people just that knew me. I was very popular, and all kind of people. You know, straight, gay, heterosexual, all that, right? Different races, you know, I didn't discriminate. You know, I had white friends, black friends, all kind of people over my place. And I was hanging with these gay men. And I found it interesting. Like, they gave me the inside scoop on how they would eventually get heterosexual men to cross over. Like, in fact, they would target heterosexual men. That was their interest. They wasn't really interested in outright gay men. These gay friends of mine at the time targeted heterosexual men. And they broke it down to say that they would approach these heterosexual men just as like buddies, like, what's up, homie? You know, the same way any heterosexual men would make connection with another heterosexual man, just platonic friends, right? Buddy friendship type thing. And then slowly they would make advances, but not like deliberate advances, right? And it wasn't intentional and clear cut and honest advances. It was like some undercutting, grooming. That's essentially what it was. Like, these gay men broke it down to me how they would groom these heterosexual men over time, and being like very friendly and very accommodating, very giving, buying things, right? Giving this person that really a victim that they were eventually going to lie down with, because that's what they had in mind anyway. This is their intent. This is all in their mind, what they plan to do. The other person doesn't know this, though. All right, these other heterosexual men did not know this, but that's what their intention was. And just being very accommodating and meeting their need, right? We're smart enough to know how to nurture these men and feed their need, whatever it was. Could have been attention. Some people, there's like the researcher says about the different love languages, right? Some people like gifts. Some people like attention. Some people like quality. Quality time is mine. Secret. I love quality. It's about the time spent, right? But we all have different love languages that just tickles our fancy, right? It softens our defenses, right? It gets our attention. And so they would meet that person's love language. It didn't come off as like, oh, they were trying to hit on them, though. It was just like friendly, thoughtful, caring, kind of brotherly love type thing. And then once those defenses were down, take a genius to know when the person's defenses are all the way down and you feel very comfortable, trusting. Very comfortable. It's like, y'all brothers, right? Then they would go there. But slowly, though, and the thing about people, like, all the times, think about like people who are gay or people who have these non-gender conforming, or they're not conforming to societal norms. Like, we can read behavior very well. Like, you can read a person, you can see right through them. You can read it very well. You're very well versed in that department. And they knew what to say. They were very calculated. They know, what moves to make, how to make the move, how far they can go. Okay, too much, right? To the point where perfect time. And they had done enough grooming to the extent where that man was ready. His asshole was ready too. Okay? And these are heterosexual men. They started out heterosexual, but end up gay. And this is how they broke it down. And I'm just like, as he's telling me that, I'm like, God damn, we're like, we're young. We're like 21, 22 college students. Broke that shit down to me. I'm like, damn. And it's a different world in the world of the LGBT community, right? They got stories for days and secrets, okay? For days. A lot of people out here living double lives, right? But that's another story. I just thought that was very interesting. But I like this part of the email because he makes it clear, like, I ain't with that. I ain't with that gay shit. I'm not with that deception shit either. So that's why I can have respect for him, because, you are who you are. And he stands on that. But this can be tricky, though, because it's like, as I said before in my video, the real reason why white men become cuckolds is a very deceptive world, in the world of cuckolding. And I know that a lot of people are misled. A lot of men have been misled into thinking like, oh, I'm invited into the bedroom. I'm wanted. And these are men who obviously are devalued already by society, as unfortunately as black men are considered the bottom of the barrel, the bottom, the lowest on the totem pole. Right? Look at the propaganda that has been promoted relating to black men. And so in America specifically, but even, internationally too. So it's just like, it works for them. They want to be accepted. They want to be validated. Nothing could be better for them than to have the forbidden fruit, the white woman. Because in America, if you know American history, there was a time where it was illegal for black men to even look at a white woman, let alone touch her. Illegal, okay? This was on the books. You will end up hung by a tree if you were, look at Emmett Till. Right? This is serious business. So for so many years, it being illegal, people always want what they can't have. Even more so. So that's a trap oftentimes a lot of black men fall in, and being persuaded into this world of cuckold. And they end up in the grasp of the white man, thinking that it was about them getting the white woman, the prize. But they end up in the grasp of the white man, yet still again. And for me, you guys know, like, I'm into race politics, right? Meanwhile, yes, I'm open to different sexual lifestyles and all that, but you definitely can't neglect race, which is the reason why I responded to this email right away as opposed to waiting till this weekend. I could have waited, right? Today is Tuesday, but I chose to go ahead and do it right away because I find it very interesting. I find race dynamics very interesting. And it's just like, if you want to be oblivious to the fact, then okay. Sometimes, like they say, ignorance is bliss. It's better to not know, right? The truth is better. Like, it's like once your eyes have been opened, it's like, fuck, now I can't have fun, right? Now I know. You ruined it. You ruined it for me, right? I can't unsee it, right? Or unthink it. It's already been made clear to me. So it's just like, damn. Right? Meanwhile, you still have this fantasy that you want to live out. Do you? Like I said, we only get one life. YOLO, we only live once. It's one thing to have sex with a married coworker whose husband is consenting, but another thing to have them watch or participate in any way. I'm not into guys. I don't want another man touching me or even seeing another man in the same room while I have sex with a woman or watch another man eat out his wife afterwards. That whole sloppy second shit, right? A lot of cuckold men love that. Reason being because they want the sperm. They want the man. It's not about, I want to see her pleasuring my bullshit, okay? You want the big prize, which is that black man. That's what you want. And psychologically, we want to look at the historical context of white-black relations, especially in America, and even just felt internationally. It's like, do we really want to go there? It's like the white man has always had this sadistic, dysfunctional relationship with the black man. I mean, just think what kind of headspace it would take for a white man to be in to strip a black man down to his bare bones, like bare body naked, right? To emasculate this this black man in front of his black female counterpart, and even sometimes his children, to hang him on a tree after he's been buck broken publicly. It's another form of buck breaking. Y'all go watch that documentary by Tariq Nasheed. Unless you want to be that person that's buck broken. Some people, I mean, they willingly consent to being buck broken. That's what you want. It's just crazy to think about. I think it might be all psychological and modern cultural pushing. It could be that as black men are endowed and they aren't satisfied. Don't fall into that damn trap. Speaking of which, you mentioned that a black man's dick is a weapon. Yes, it is. That sounds like a modern rendition of Dr. Francis Welson's comparison. No, I quoted Dr. Francis Christ Welson when I said that the black man's dick is a weapon. I was speaking in the context of a quote that came from Dr. Francis. You know Dr. Francis Christ Welson when you hear her, right? When you hear her words. That's her, but it is true. Where she says the solution to this race war between black people and white people is that black men don't have to pick up a gun, a literal gun, and kill white people, kill their oppressor. All they got to do is pull out their dick and impregnate the white woman. That will kill out the race, the white race. But I like what he says here. He says that's like the modern rendition of Dr. Francis Welson's comparison of white balls and brown balls in sports. And I'm like, what? I think I've heard that, but I don't remember. And I had to imagine, like, I had to think about it for a second. I'm like, wait, white balls and brown balls in sex, in sports and sex. It didn't take me long to get it. I'm like, now think about the white balls in sports. They're usually small, or they're usually used in predominantly white sports. Sports played by predominantly white people. Not that black people aren't in those sports, but predominantly white sports players. That's where you see the white balls. Golf, baseball. One can say, okay, soccer, but that's a bigger white ball. But it's still white, right? And those balls are small and white. Small and or white. Played in predominantly white sports. And then cross over to the brown balls. What sports do we see the brown balls? Football. Basketball. Okay, we know who dominates that. Look it up. Look at the percentage of black football players. They damn near own the team. Well, percentage-wise, they don't fucking financially own the team. But in terms of their ratio of black football players to white and black basketball players to white, I'm just saying, though, It's a black man's sport with those brown balls. And he says relating it to sex. Then he says, it could actually be the other women have a natural desire to mate with more superior beings. Goes without saying, like it's evolutionary. I like to see what you think on this. Not sure if you noticed it. I guess you would have to ask a white woman. Not really. Just ask women. This is just my personal experience. Hopefully you take the time and look at this. And the thing about, like, people make interracial relationships so awkward. People aren't honest. You know, like, you ask black men, why do they date outside their race? And I'm just like, that's who I fell in love with, right? And you ask white women, like, they're not going to say. You have to, like, consider the social, political context in which we live. There are some things that aren't just socially acceptable to say. Meanwhile, there are people like myself and other race soldiers who don't really give a fuck, right? And we're willing to, like, die and risk our lives to speak openly and unapologetically about these things. But the average person living in this racial context, they're not going to speak on these things. You know, they will live it. They'll be seen in public with a person of the opposite sex. They'll fall in love, but in having real conversations about it, and asking Becky, why are you with that black man? Oh, I just love him. Okay. Do you even know why? Right? It could be just below their conscious awareness that they haven't really taken the time. Like, they don't really know. They're just like, just fell in love. I just stumbled in. This is just who I fell in love with. Like, no. Marriage is a political decision. And love, at some point, even before marriage, becomes a political decision, a conscious political decision. You don't just fall in love. Okay, you may have feelings, you may have an attraction initially, but we know in being with a person, being committed to a person, that is a conscious decision that you make every single day, especially when you're going through tough times. You're deciding every single day to stay with that person. No one is forcing you to or to leave. So while you may say, okay, I fell in love or I was attracted and they swept me off my feet, okay, but in moving in with that person and living with that person, that is a conscious political decision. And while you have the choice to choose who you procreate with, who you marry, when you are choosing, there are options. Why a black man? Why not a white man? Something to be said about that. And he signs off, much love and respect. Keep up the great content. So that is a wrap, you guys. We can revisit this. Feel free to drop your comments below. You can reach out to me via email, and I'll catch you guys and girls in the next one. Oh my gosh, it is 10:12, exactly 2 hours later. How amazing. Catch you guys later. Bye.